My name is Bryan Tapia, B-R-Y-A-N, not B-R-I-A-N, because my parents know how to write. But I'm just playing with you guys. But since we're on a first name basis, let me tell you a little secret about myself. In my middle school and elementary school days, I was somewhat of a mute child. Not because I was scared of the environment I was thrown in or the competitive nature of school, but merely I just couldn't understand what was being said to me. Since I grew up deep in Washington Heights, my first language is Spanish. So being a child, I assumed everyone knew Spanish, or at least a very little bit. Upon coming to my first day of school, which was English, my first period, I was pretty excited to not only show off how well I have practiced and learned English, but to impress the entire class, because I came from teaching myself how to speak English. So I sit down, and all I think to myself is, this is really easy. I just sit down, do my work, and study. But I really, really wish it was that easy. When my teacher started reading pages off the book or essays, I did not understand a single thing. It was almost like a new language. These bits and pieces of English broken together to Frankenstein these big words that I cannot understand. My brain desperately trying to fight on and grab anything it can understand, only to fail miserably. The words that sound like English echo throughout the room, and I cannot pick up a single thing. I was ashamed of myself. I thought I was teaching myself well. What happened? No one at my local deli spoke this way. And I thought I was teaching myself well. I was staying up late nights, watching TV, reading books, and going online to how to say the word because. But this is what academic English made me feel like as a non-native English speaker. And at least it's nice to know that I wasn't the only one. In high school, I was a tutor, teaching students a lot younger than me, whose first language was Spanish, how to speak English. Because if I struggled, let me make the lives of others a little bit easier. What was supposed to be a 5-week program merely turned into 3, because everyone stopped showing up. And when institutions and education fails, we like to blame the professors or the tutors or the teachers rather than the curriculum itself. And it was a ghost town. What was supposed to fit 20 students fit no one. A fully funded tutoring program that we would provide anything. If you needed paper, if you needed a tablet, if you needed a book, we will cover it. But no one wanted to show up. And within my students, I saw a quiet struggle. Pretending like you know something, when in reality you know nothing at all. And you just move on because it's too embarrassing to say, I don't know. And the same feeling I took with me all throughout my educational journey. Now, naturally, academic English has its purpose all throughout the United States curriculum with education. In the countless textbooks on which I've spent way too much money on, I feel like I'm not supposed to be reading these books. And I can safely say most of you might agree with me on this. The fact that I need to look up a word every single time I read a new sentence is kind of a problem. I should be reading this, a 30-minute chapter. It takes me 2 hours because I'm just breaking down every single bit of vocabulary. And it doesn't help when there is a scientific breakthrough. We discovered something new, a new element, and the page just filled with science jargon. And you might think that makes sense, a science journal written for scientists. But for the everyday person like me and you, it kind of begs the question, why should I care? Better yet, why should I even bother looking up this stuff if I can't even understand it? And these questions reveal the ugly cracks in academic English. It provides a huge barrier within students who are native to English compared to those who had to pick it up throughout their educational prowess. And it doesn't help when academic English is kind of a hindrance to students. It teaches them that writing with a thesaurus next to you will make your essay good, Or if you put enough big words in it, it'll eventually sound interesting. That's not the case. We're sucking out a lot of the originality and life experiences these students bring with them in these institutions. But because we put academic English and writing as such a holy grail that cannot be touched, we make students lose their voice in that whole time. And if we teach students how to speak, how to write in their own ways, in their own words, maybe we'll give their voice back. Maybe if we teach them to criticize these texts, eventually they will pick up where they left off. More is not better, and a lot of these institutions teach them that. Literature, these academic pieces, these $500 textbooks are not holy grails. And I don't like it, the fact that we teach them like that. And every time I read these books, I always still feel like that little kid who felt dumb, who didn't deserve to be in school, because I can't even pick up a single word. And it starts to become like this members only, this VIP club, something that you're not allowed to be in, this cool kids table. And at a certain point, I try my hardest to be part of this place, to at least say to everyone, look, I can speak, I can do the same thing anyone else can do. But after a certain point, I just knew it just wasn't my place. And I think that's okay. And I think one of the best realizations and one of the best person that helped me realize that was my very own mother. She helped me regain my confidence in going to school, in my writing, in my English. She didn't obviously sit me down and told me, hey, this is what you need to do. But looking at the way she puts herself out there, looking at the way she talks to bank tellers, looking at the way she talks to anyone at the supermarket, people take her seriously. And I was very confused because a lot of the times with our thick accents or when we talk fast or stumble, people don't really take us seriously. And that's something I really struggled with a lot of the times. Like my English was broken, like it wasn't right. But what is right? And surely, what's the proper English? It doesn't make sense when you put in that kind of context. Yeah, you can go in an interview, and obviously I'm not gonna, say what's up, but that's a completely different story. To me, my mom is still my biggest inspiration through everything. I look at the way she puts herself out there, like I mentioned before. It's beautiful to the fact that she can do so much with herself because she sacrificed so much, both academically and financially. She gave everything to me so I can pursue and even attend this college right now. All she had is a middle school education, maybe even less, but that does not make her any less of a person. And so what did I learn from my mom, watching her when I go out in the grocery store with her or help her with the bank teller? She kind of taught me that my environment plays a beautiful role in how I learn and how I speak. And what I mean by that is, in a lot of our quote-unquote advanced courses, we are taught that we assume that these students have a certain life knowledge or a certain expectancy to know something. But again, this undermines a lot of students, and it assumes like they know something. One time, my teacher was talking about lounges and ballrooms. I was trying my hardest to say lounge, lug, and I was even asking myself, why is there a room filled with balls? I will never know. But the thing is, another beautiful thing she taught me was the fact that confidence is key. And that may sound cheesy or obvious, but a lot of the times I was placed in something called English as a Second Language courses, or ESL for short. And in these classes, a lot of the times, at least in my experiences, they were really underfunded, underdeveloped, and I felt like I was not taken seriously. Like I was the pity. I was just thrown aside as the back burner so people can say, look, we have this program. And I really thought I was good at English. And I don't know why I was placed in these classes. Surely you can understand me. And to this day, I always wonder why I was placed there. And it even stopped me from wanting to attend school. I was embarrassed to show my face. I was embarrassed to be myself. But in the days I pretended to be sick so my mom could let me not go to school, I stared at the white ceiling, the white popcorn ceiling, and I thought to myself, my mother was never embarrassed to pick up bottles on the streets to pay for rent. And she was never embarrassed to pick up the quarters to pennies to afford my lunch. Why should I be embarrassed for getting the education I deserve? Why should I be embarrassed for something that is out of my control? So I got up from my bed, and to that day, I took myself every single day, or at least tried to. There are days where I go back and have the same conundrum of not wanting to go to school because of my embarrassment. But again, my mother was the one who pushed me forward and persevered. And I like to say that perseverance paid off because I'm here talking to all of you. And I feel like, to me, that already is enough to show my accomplishments. So what do? Do we just dismantle and completely restructure a curriculum that's been working for God knows how many years because a 20-year-old CUNY student said so? No, but I want a complete restructure in the way we teach English for the brighter generation that awaits us. A complete shift in teaching. A way that we can make education more accessible and more comprehensible for the new generation that awaits us. One technique that we should give students, if there's any teachers here listening to me, is that when we ask a question or we're given something to respond, give us some time to think about our thoughts. I know that makes kind of sense, but hear me out. When a teacher asks me a question, I always feel like there's this sense of urgency, like I need to answer this right now, instead of giving myself time to really comprehend what I'm thinking. And not only am I trying to break down the way my professor said the question so I can understand it in my head, but also answer the question. And it gives a sense of urgency that I don't like. And for my lecture-oriented teachers, please speak slowly. Exaggerate what you're saying, and please give us time. I want to listen and understand and take in everything you have told me. I don't want to just completely rush and write notes or try to go back 5 seconds ago to what you said because you mumbled the last sentence. Or maybe an outline would help. Outlines are a student's best friend. And yes, maybe we'll look at this piece of paper for 1 second, but that 1 second will be the most important second of the student's life and my life. Because it makes my life and your life easier. It makes me, give me a mental note of what I should look out for and what I should do. Because that 1 second would be more important than a 45-minute ramble I'll just end up probably sleeping through. And it's kind of sad to realize that I won't be the only one who has this dilemma. I'm the story of 1,000, maybe 1 million. I wouldn't say I'm particularly unique, but I like to speak for others that can't, others that are having their hardest to do so. And it's sad to see that a lot of the times our students leave school because they just cannot understand the words that these institutions are shoving down their throat. But if there's one thing I want to leave you all with, if you want to remember me by something or remember yourself by something, it's that at the end of the day, I'm not defined by the way I can say big words to make myself sound smart. I'm not defined by the way I can say because. I'm defined by the way I impact this world, both on a large and small scale. It's better to me to be understood by the masses than to target those who are socially considered intelligent. And the same can be applied for every single one of you. You're all unique in your own ways, and you shouldn't let anything else tell you otherwise. Thank you so much.